please give a warm welcome to director Halina Reijn. Right there, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here, Halina. I've been obsessed with this film, and the reason why I was so obsessed is because when I started watching the film, I was titillated. I was having so much fun, and then I started noticing metaphors, and then it hit me. Damn, you use sexuality as a metaphor for deeper things.
Yes.
And, you know, about identity and about the search for self. Can you tell us about that approach?
Well, I'm so happy that you immediately bring that up, because it's mostly the other way around. But yes, for me, of course, I hope it's a sexy movie.
Extremely.
But I kind of use it a little bit as a Trojan horse, if you will, to talk about existential crisis. You know, this woman is in a crisis about identity and who is she. And the sexuality is a very obvious sort of theme to show discovery. And that's why I chose to start and end the movie with an orgasm and create a happy ending figuratively and literally.
Well, you started also with an orgasm, but it's a fake orgasm.
That's fake. That's fake. And then the second one is real when she goes to watch the porn.
Mm-hmm. Well, you actually give us crumbs to understanding where you're leading. For example, the dog, that was for me the takeaway. It was like, oh my God, that dog is a symbol of the beast in all of us that we need to allow. We either tame it or we just allow it to be what it is.
Yes, I think a lot of people, and maybe especially women, but I think a lot of people in general might have an issue with that beast inside of us. At least I do. I will speak for myself. I'm not at ease with it. I'm embarrassed about it. I don't like it. I don't want to show it to anybody. I feel it should be erased and it should move away. But when you suppress it, when you say, no, 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 I'm an angel. I have no darkness in me. I have nothing. I'm a completely perfect being. Then it can become risky, and it pops up in the form, in this story at least, but also it has in my life, as an affair, you know, and an affair can be very destructive. If she would have set Antonio Banderas down before the movie started, and she would have said, hey, listen, I need to tell you something I've had.
The movie's over.
The movie's over, there would be no movie, no need. Because I do think that Antonio Banderas' character would definitely be open to exploring that with her. Mm-hmm. So it's not so much about what he does or does not do. It's only about what she allows herself to be.
I'm glad you brought up Antonio, hubba hubba. But the fact that she is, the importance of casting somebody like Antonio Banderas is like you start questioning, wait a second, you know, she's married to this gorgeous man. What the hell is going on here? And then you start thinking, wow, there is needs that are not being met in her. You know, tell us about that aspect, casting, the importance of casting an extremely good-looking man in her life.
Yeah, we really wanted to find someone, like you said, it was obviously very important that you wouldn't think as an audience, yeah, of course she's gonna cheat, like, what is that guy? Like, I really wanted the marriage to work. You know, they're real good friends, they have a lot of humor, they share all this history, they have a lot of warmth, and they are having sex, something that is also not always the case in such long-term relationships. So when we were talking about casting with A24, the studio that I made the movie with, we said, who is this masculine man, and also who is a sort of an icon in his own right, just like Nicole is, you know, so that it would be equal. And that's when Noah Secco, who's head of film, came up with the idea of Antonio Banderas. And then I said, as a European, I was like, he's never going to do that. He's never going to play a guy that has been cheated on like that. He wants to be Harris. He's never going to do that. And then we sent him the script. I couldn't sleep for a couple of nights because I knew he was reading it. And then I had a conversation with him, and the first thing he said was, listen, I want to support this story, because I think it's incredibly important to talk about these topics, and they're very taboo, and I think it's important, and I'm going to do whatever you ask me to do. And he's incredible. He doesn't have that much screen time, but I think he shows sort of his full range in this movie, you know, from very sweet, very soft, very aggressive, very masculine, very warm. But yeah, it's all about her in the end. It's her crisis, and it's not about what he does wrong or what he doesn't do wrong.
Going back to my startup point about that, I was so impressed with all the metaphors and ideas that you bring up in the film. The fact that she is involved with automation and how it ties with her psyche and how she is. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but tell me about the fact that she's in automation.
Oh God, I love all your questions. You're really the first one who I feel gets it all. Yes, the automation thing is all about, the whole movie, to me at least, is about the beast versus the civilized inside of us.
Correct.
And so she comes from, the backstory of her is that she grew up in communes and cults, and that she's named by a guru. So she came from relative chaos, and she's a product of the sexual revolution. So her whole life is an answer to that. It's kind of like a statement against it. Her way of rebelling against her parents is the white picket fence, but also the robots. The robots are the ultimate form of control, and they are putting everything in little boxes. It's not the sexy robotics where a robot looks like a human. It's the kind of like dumb robotics where, you know, it's like picking and placing and sorting everything out. And that's what she wants her brain to sort of be like. She wants total control. She thinks she can perfect herself. She thinks with enough Botox, enough ice baths, enough therapy, I will become this flawless, beautiful, perfect being. But of course, that's a lie. And a lot of us, I think, at least I, recognize that, you know, all the time. I think as long as I just work on myself, I can be a perfect person. Instead of just thinking, yes, there's growing a hair out of my nipple, that's okay.
As I was watching the film,
don't worry, I did take them out.
how do I
Wish I hadn't, but I did.
How do I follow this? I need to keep.
Track. Sorry, we got to stay focused.
The beast in me needs to like indulge in what you're doing, but then the more controlling automation person needs to get back into controlling this Q&A. I greatly admire the geometry on it. I mean, I'm going to be blunt with you. Your script is my favorite script of the year. And the reason why it is because of the geometry in your writing, the fact that you have two generations of younger male, female, and then you have this sort of older versions, and they're all countering each other. So you have the Esme and Nicole, and then you have the Antonio Banderas, and then you have the Harris. Tell us about creating that.
Well, we really wanted to make, or I wanted to make a comedy of manners, or a fable, if you will. That's also why I put the dog in the beginning, to create that kind of fairy tale quality. And for me, it was very important to focus on those different generations and age groups and their ideas about sexuality, about that inner beast, about freedom, about identity. Because I myself, I'm 49, and I made a movie called Bodies, 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 and I felt
phenomenal film.
And I felt like a total dinosaur half of the time, which I loved. But these young people were teaching me so much, and my research, to really examine that generation, and I really was inspired by them. And I thought their ideas about the things that I was struggling with on a daily basis were very freeing for me. But with this movie, because we're kind of ironizing or kind of mocking everybody and everyone, I wanted to mock my own feminism a little bit, and how I look at feminism, what I think feminism is, and then really introduce these new ideas, about what Esme has, her assistant, who looks at it very differently, who says, I'm not going to take you down, but I just want you to be someone I can actually look up to.
Look up to,
you know? And so I just wanted to show all of these different ideas, and when the men fight, after the fight and the frozen peas are brought in, they have a conversation. And in the conversation, Antonio says, you know that female masochism is a male construct, right? And then Harris goes, no, that's a dated idea of sexuality. And I don't know if either, maybe Antonio's right, you know, maybe I, as a woman, because I don't like that beast inside me, I prefer to sort of be playfully tied up, because then it's not my responsibility that I climax. So maybe he's right. Maybe that is in some way kind of a product of patriarchy, that I would want to be humiliated in that way. But maybe Harris is right. Maybe anything goes. Maybe it's, you know, if I want to dress up as a giraffe tonight, it's fine too. Or not, but...
Hey, I'll
what do you think?
I'll go for it.
He goes for it. So there we go. No, so it's in that sense, I just wanted to create a movie in which it's not only about this woman in crisis that is in midlife, you know, that sees the horizon, that knows death is approaching, that says the avalanche is always coming, but also about a younger generation and about how they view it, and then all the sort of like things that come with that. I mean, I love Gen Z, and sometimes I'm like, what? Like, I think it's just really interesting to show that, and it's just moving to me how we as people grow older, and we all think it's never going to happen to me, but then you find yourself at 49 and you're like, little lady, listen to me. You know, like I hear myself sometimes say these things, and I just think it's important to look at yourself with radical honesty, and that's what we're trying to do with this movie, and hopefully that is also funny to look at and we can laugh.
To me, one of the essential aspects of your amazing screenplay is the daughter, is you showcases a different way of being a woman. It's like, you know, Nicole Kidman's character strives for this sense of femininity that has been imposed on her. And then we see the daughter that she's just, you know, this is the way I'm gonna be. You know, whatever, you know, it's masculine or feminine, whatever, I don't care. Tell us about the importance of that dynamic.
Yeah, I think both Nicole and I in my own little country, I used to be an actress and I worked on the stage with Ivo van Hove for 20 years. Black Book with Paul Verhoeven.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so I lived in all these, I did all this classical theater work, so a lot of these Shakespeare's and Ibsen and O'Neill's, and all of these women trying to liberate themselves would all kill themselves. Ophelia was my first role, went from a virgin to psychotic to drowning herself in some river really quick. And I think I just wanted something different. And I think it's very important to show with our movie that Nicole Kidman, of course, who worked with such strong male directors all her life, that we see her go from that kind of idea of what is femininity, like you said, and this means so much to me that you get all of that, but this, you know, her idea of femininity, and then her daughter who looks differently, who acts differently, who kisses this girl in the pool, and then Nicole's like, what? But you were in love with that person. And she's like, yeah, but that's all okay. You know, I can be in love with this person, but I'm just experimenting with that person. I, as Halina, a 49-year-old dinosaur, wouldn't know how to do that. I'm a Scorpio, I'm so jealous, I would never tolerate anything. But I look up to it, and I get hope from it. And I love that my niece of 19 asked me, why do you use Botox? And why on your Instagram you post pictures of yourself in a bikini after you go to the gym? It's horrible. And I think that's inspiring, you know, and I wanted to put that in my script. And all the Shakespeare's and the Ibsens and the O'Neills, they taught me how to write. You know, doing Hedda Gabler for 15 years, it sticks inside of you. And they were my teachers, but we tried to take it to another level where a woman can actually find freedom without having to die.
Thank you. Your collaboration with your DP, Jasper Wolf, I adored it. I love watching it. The camera is kind of this active participant to what we're seeing. There was one scene that knocked my socks off where she goes into the club, and then you have all this strap lighting that gives us the idea that what her inner world and her transformation as she leads to Harris.
You really get it, everything. Yes, yes. So that's the scene. It's the midpoint. So it's kind of like the orgasm of the movie. And we wanted no talking in that, just a very long scene without dialogue. She comes from this background of communes and cults, and we see very brief flashes. If you blink, you can't even see it. But during the EMDR therapy, where you see all the children dancing, and that's where she comes from, and she never wants to return to that. But then somehow this young man, Harris Dickinson, he kind of invites her to rediscover the chaos of her past instead of denying it and trying to erase it. And then in this rave, she kind of like, for the first time, everything starts to align. And of course, she walks in like Mary Poppins in her suit and like, you know, and all these people are, what the fuck is she doing here? And then slowly she takes the drink, whatever's in the drink, you know, she drinks the drink, she drinks the potion, and she kind of starts to let go. And then until she's like, really raving. And when we were shooting that scene, it was incredible because Jasper Wolf, my DP, he's a very special man. I worked with him a lot as an actress, and I could always feel that he almost knew where I was going before I knew where I was going. And that quality for an actor, that gives total freedom, because then it's not about hit your mark and stand in the light and the shot is like this and you better do your job. It's all about you, where you want to go. And then you get performances like that that are so electrifying, you know, because we do everything for them. We light it in a way where we don't have to wait a lot for lighting, where they really can move freely. And for this rave, Nicole, of course, can never go to a rave anymore because she's just too famous. She literally, we couldn't get her off the dance floor. She, the whole thing, she was just dancing in between takes. She was dancing. She's like, keep the music playing. We're like, okay. And so it was really electrifying. And of course, for the people around her, they felt that. And so it became a real rave, and it was very primal, and everything that what you said that I dreamed up in the script, it actually really happened.
So you and Jasper understood that that scene was like a big metaphor for the movie, that this is where we see her transforming and
and becoming the hippie child that she once was and that she so hated, becoming that again as an adult and kind of like accepting who she is.
When I introduced the film, I said that we are used to seeing, you were, obviously you're paying homage to 90s thrillers like Basic Instinct and 8½, etc. But those films, we're seeing it from the male gaze. You know, you're poking fun and celebrating those films, but we're seeing it for the female gaze. I want to talk about the Jasper Wolf shot sequence where the camera is on the ground and she's having the orgasm. The performance, the camera work you're directing, that would have never happened with a male director. It's so intimate. It's so, the actor is so trusting of you. It's such an incredible sequence. You know, tell us about that. Shooting that scene. Yeah,
that's my favorite scene of the movie. It's basically the cheap hotel room. We call that sort of a womb. We built that on a stage. I really wanted to have 4 walls so that the actors and Jasper, the DP, could be totally alone. We hang microphones everywhere. We lit it in a way where we didn't have to stop. We shot it on the last day, which I think was very good because the actors really got to know each other. And that scene, they kind of go through a whole marriage. They get to know each other, they discover each other, they get angry with each other, they walk out, they fight, they play, they laugh, they get bored. They go through the whole thing of what a relationship is. So I was incredibly nervous. I think I did not sleep for 1 minute because I knew how hard it was going to be. And I also wanted to have that quality of performance. The whole movie is about performing. This woman thinks that if she performs the role of the mother, the role of the CEO, the role of the daughter, the role of the friend, the role of the wife, then she can, you know, be perfect and become happy. But of course, she has to become herself. So in this scene, I was using this as a tone where Harris says, on your knees, and then, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. You know, like switching between almost showing the mechanics of acting, almost breaking through the 4th wall and showing, you know, how performative sex can also be. If you want to try something together, how embarrassing that is. And so we wanted all of that, and it had to be funny, and it had to be tragic, and it had to end with her on her belly, because that was what I wrote was very important to me, that every time she masturbated, it was on her belly, because for a lot of women, it's shameful still, you know, and you feel it takes too long, and you're worried that someone is going to come in. So on your belly is safer than what we often see in these sexual thrillers where they sit like la 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 like that, and I'm like, okay, well, so, you know, so that we can get a great shot of their breasts and it looks good. And I was like, no, on her belly. And Jasper was doing everything handheld. He operates the camera himself to make it more intimate. But of course, yeah, and I wanted that. The first time I pitched this scene, I said that scene, that orgasm, it needs to take 18 minutes, 8 minutes, because that's the average it takes a woman to come with a man. So I said it needs to take 18 minutes. A24 was like, wait, what? 18 minutes? No. But it still needed to feel long, you know? So he had to, and then my whole idea was that you would only see her face. You don't see anything really. It's all suggestion, but yet I wanted it to be uncomfortably long so that even the audience would think like, is it gonna take even longer? Like, please, let this come to an end. Because that's what it feels to us half of the time, you know? And so I just wanted everybody to really experience that. Am I right or am I right? I know a lot of women are like, yeah. And so, and so we really talked about it for a long time. We choreographed it like a classical ballet, and then they were free to go. And then we talked about how that orgasm should have a different quality than the opening orgasm, and how do you communicate that? Because some orgasms, let's be honest, are just quiet, you know, but this is a story and we want to communicate with the audience. And so we talked about an animalistic sound that would be beyond vanity, beyond thinking, what is he going to think? Something that sort of like happens to you more than you perform. And so we were looking for that coming from the belly. And Jasper was literally like, he was so tired, he was sweating, he was like on the ground like this. It was very intense, but I knew. Oh, is my skirt still? Oh, my skirt is up.
Poor little Sophia. My dog Sophia's in the front row, and she's like, what the hell is going on here?
And then, and when I was watching the monitor, I just knew, yeah, when she did that take that ended up in the movie, and afterwards she started crying, I just knew, yeah, it was something unique and more than I could have ever dreamed of.
But it's something that it would have never been captured with a male director. I mean, the trust that you and Nicole built, it's palpable on the screen.
Yeah, and I also think sort of the mission that we were both on of being truthful and radically honest about this, because I felt that even with my girlfriends, I had so much shame to talk about this, because even the movie is very sexual, but I think both me and Nicole have this prudish side to us where we're both kind of like fearful to even discuss this. And through a movie like this, it's just a very handy tool to start speaking to everyone about orgasm gaps, everything, the beast inside, and it feels less scary.
There's one moment in the film that I actually broke down crying. It's so emotional. Is when she takes off her dress, and the vulnerability. It brings out the self-hate in all of us, and not wanting to embrace all the good and the bad things in all of us. You know, tell us about that moment.
Yeah, I think it's just incredibly human to have a very difficult relationship with your body, and it doesn't matter what you look like. I know models who are like on top of the world right now who hate their own body. You know, it doesn't matter if you look beautiful for yourself. It's still, do you actually, you know, are you okay with just standing there? And especially now in the time of social media, and we just create these insane beauty standards. And I just wanted to write a scene in which, and also especially women, about, you know, their vaginas. That's why I wrote the scene where he says, open your legs, and he just looks at her, and even though we don't see anything, we can all relate to the feeling of sitting there like that, and a young man like looking like that. And then that moment where she takes her dress off, even though you would think it's Nicole Kidman, you know, she looks like more perfect than anybody else, especially in her age group. She's just an absolute, but it does not matter. It's all about how you feel in that moment, and are you able to accept who you are and what you look like, and that we're all dying. We're all dying. We're not staying young forever. Mm-hmm. And it's very different to take your clothes off when you're 25 than at that age, and that vulnerability I just wanted to show, and I thought she did such an amazing job with that. Yeah,
which leads me to the question that you're a very accomplished actress, an amazing screenwriter, and a phenomenal director, and you've crafted a role. You wrote a role for an actress that shows her entire range. I mean, I look at this film and it's like, it's one of the most demanding roles that I can think of lately for an actress. Were you aware when you were crafting the script how demanding this role is, and what you are asking for Nicole to do?
Yes, I do write the role that I would like to play. So I would just write the role that I think this is the ultimate role where you can, what you say, show everything you have, and where you're technically challenged on the language level with heavy, long dialogue scenes, physically challenged.
And also at the beginning, she's unlikable. And like you show us warts and all this character. Yeah. It's like normally we have these characters that we are immediately attached to, but you show us from the get-go a very complicated character.
Yeah, because for me, that's true feminism. I think standing in the wings of the theater every night watching men play Richard III, I was so jealous. You know, I wanted to play a role where I could show my dark side, where I could show my corruption, my weakness, my greed, my sexual desire, my rage, and my vulnerability, and my caring side, and, you know, all of that. But, you know, all of these roles in the classical theater literature that I played, I was always jealous of the men. You know, Hamlet's asking to be or not to be, and then they were looking for the equivalent of that for me, and they found Lulu, which is a play about a sex worker, and all she says on stage when she's alone is, I don't know. That's all she says. And so I was like, I want to create these huge roles for women. Yeah, and that I do set out to do that, and I play it all myself in my little house, and to feel it if it's possible to do it. But then when someone like her comes to you, I mean, she's of course, I think in my eyes, one of the 5 best actors on the planet, you know. So yeah, I love that she wanted to do it, and I also love that she now says a lot in Q&As, like, that everybody tells her she's so courageous, but she says, yeah, but the material for someone of her age doesn't come along that often, where you can actually show all of that. You know, it's all in her, that talent, but when can it come out? And of course, she does a lot of very interesting TV work, but if you look around, there's not that many female writers or directors doing big movies, so it's very necessary as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, yeah. And did you always, when you were writing the piece, were you thinking, besides yourself, to cast yourself in the film, were you thinking about Nicole, or eventually just happened?
We were in touch. She, as she says, she always says, I want to support female directors. She actually finds every single little movie in every corner of the world. She found my little Dutch movie called Instinct. She really loved it. And then I worked on a film that she had with Blossom. I was rewriting it for her and was going to direct it. But then I was doing Bodies, and after Bodies, I just felt I need to write Babygirl. I felt so urgently I want to write this story about a woman liberating herself. So I called Nicole, you know, shaking, like, sorry, but I'm going to just focus on my own project. But she was so supportive. Do it, like, you know, I'll stay in touch. And she did stay in touch, but I just wrote it really for the woman. Like, I just wrote it for women. You know, I never, in that sense, saw an actress, never myself, but I mean, I play it all out just to feel it, you know. But I play also Harris's role completely out in my room, you know, and the dog. Like, I play every role. So it's not about me actually going to play that. I really just wanted to create this for women, you know, like for my sister, for my niece, for my mom, for that was what I was doing. And then when she asked to read it, she first heard the title and she was already, oh, Keith has a tattoo in his neck of Babygirl. And she had this whole connection to the title. And then she read it and she said, I will do everything that is on that page. Wow. So that was, of course, yeah, a moment that I was crying and just so happy and yeah.
You mentioned how, you know, it's a big film. It's a low budget film, but you make it look so big. You know, there's so many locations. You're in New York City. Tell us how were you able, it looks like this big studio 90s thriller, location-wise, and you know, how were you able to manage on such a low budget to look so expensive?
Yeah, that was really something we really wanted. When I was 6, I wasn't allowed to see moving images, and I saw Annie with my babysitter who got really bored because we didn't have toys. And then I was changed forever. So Annie was always what I wanted to do. So with this movie, I was like, it needs to look big, it needs to be seductive, it needs to be... And we just prepared ourselves to the death, me and Jasper. I think that is what created that we maximized the money and the time that we had, that we were so well prepared. We knew exactly what we wanted to get. And for the camera, we just used 2 languages, the language of the beast, which is him operating handheld, which is everything close to the actor, so sensual that you can see like everything on their skin, you're so close. And then these big drone shots, these big city shots that were the civilized part of everything. So that's how we divided it, these overhead shots on the rave that we work with a big crane. So we just made very specific choices, and A24 is just the best studio to help you and guide you with all of that. Because shooting in New York as a Dutch tourist is not easy, I can tell you that much. So that took quite, you know, a lot of teaching yourself and educating yourself and asking a lot of questions, and I learned so much. But yeah, I'm incredibly proud of that you noticed that, because that's what I want. I want this movie to be super entertaining and joyful and fun, you know, and then really touch upon some very hopefully important topics.
It does. And can I tell you what a breath of fresh air you are? I mean, I adore you. Adore you. And I adore your film. Thank you so much for being...
Thank you all for coming. I so appreciate you. Thank you.
Halina.
Thank you so
Look,
much.
they're standing for you.
Oh, thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Best conversation I've ever